Hello. Give me one second. Just take one more sip of water, one more grounding breath. Whoo. I'm not all over the place. I'm chill. Just everything's been a lot lately, so I'm really glad to be back doing this type of life. I really like doing this type of life, but I'm just gonna take a minute, you know? And I know you know, and of course, as usual, I start speaking, the cats come flocking to the sound of my voice. I am gonna drop a thing in the Discord real quick and just sort of say a couple of the things that we're gonna talk about today. Since you are the only person who got the preview of what we're gonna be talking about today, so I will let everybody else know. Okay. Buddy? Hello, hello, hello! I was watching it in anime edits. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good to see you, good to see you. If my cat would settle just for a moment so that I can type in the Discord, that would be excellent. Love you dearly, child. I was saying, because Lid is one of the only people who got the preview of what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about like energy signatures and like energy levels and stuff like that, and how that relates to your higher self, and how there's like different levels of higher self. So it's a big topic, and it's fun. And so I figure if people see that, they might want to hop in here. So. You really. I wish I could better show you guys. Hello, hello. I wish I could better show you guys the little mischief maker here, because he will run his face into my fingers while I am typing in order to receive his affection, as if I do not give you so much affection. He's very cute. Yeah, and I do have I have a sketchbook behind me. I have pens and stuff, so we're gonna draw out what I'm talking about a little bit as well. So, I'll be talking that. I keep wanting to say energy signatures. That's not what I mean. Um, can Boggle ever be unboggled? Can we all unboggle together? I think so. You are actually making this extremely difficult, little one. I always mean to put these little like teaser things in here, or like in the Discord of like, this is what we're going to talk about today. But so many of the days, we don't even end up talking about what I'm meaning to talk about. So, you know, we're going for it today. Thank you guys for being here and being patient while I still get our first couple minutes set up here. Okay. We'll call that done, and I will stop playing with my iPad. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everybody say welcome to the large cat. Look, you don't want to look at the camera, large cat? That's okay. That's okay. Okay. Graphic organizers. Again. What about now? Because, yeah, my mic is still... I don't have any other... properties. Monitor is off. Okay, you do. Yeah, I was like, everything's working on my end, so I don't know. Okay, excellent. Hello, 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 folks. So glad to see you here. So glad you can hear me. That's great. Okay. So we do have good. We have, first of all, mini show and tell. Look at my bird. I love this bird. I drew this bird in college, and I still have this bird. Bird is forever, and my little like sort of bind rune thing that I drew on my pencil case. So I'm just getting something to start drawing so that I can illustrate with some visuals what we're actually talking about. Let's see. I think this is probably the chonkiest guy I've got in here that I know has ink. So, a part of me wishes that I had a giant whiteboard and could go full teacher mode, but have that I do not. What I do have is a tiny sketchbook. So, put bird here. If bird will stand. If pencil case will stand. Pencil case will not stand. That's fine. Pencil case will flop. Welcome to the chaos of my life. So glad to see you. Well, also, legitimately welcome back. I know it's been a minute, so thank you guys for sticking around and coming back for me. Boy, oh boy, is that whole end of year everything and beginning of year everything a mess. Anyway, so, energy levels of entities, right? And how that's going to tie back into, that's where we're starting, that's going to tie back into the higher self stuff. So, energy, we're going full... Oh, now Onyx wants to get my paper. Okay. Oh, no, is this going to be mirrored for you guys? That's the right direction, right? That's the right direction. I think that's the right direction. Okay. NRG. Of different entities. Spelling is... I was joking spelling the thing badly first. Now we're just actually spelling it wrong. That's fine. Entities. So, if human level... I'm going to draw a little stick figure. If this is human level, right? And we just, all of us exist along this same x-axis, right? Then things like ancestors and things like that, and ghosts, both overlap with humans just a little bit. So, this sort of section here, ancestors. We're just going A and C there. So this little overlap with the upper layer of a human and a little bit above, that's where ancestors hit. So we're going to have a lot of relatively easy reach to our ancestors because they just were human. Now they are something akin to human spirits still, but especially depending on how far removed the ancestors are in time, they're going to have differently, like, I think the best word I can use here is oriented energy signatures. Their energy signatures are snapping back to a different level than where we are, right? We can change, we can raise and lower our energy in our spirit forms, but our physical human forms, our energy is roughly locked in, right? So, but we can reach up without changing our energy signature. We can reach up to the upper levels of like an ancestor, right? And now a ghost is going to be essentially the inverse of that. Go. We're just going for go. So ghosts are essentially the inverse of ancestors. They overlap with the human energy level. I should maybe preface, this is all my understanding, but I think my understanding will help you guys, right? So ghosts, you kind of have to look down a little bit, right? So there's a lot of relative positioning in the way that I observe energy and energy signatures and energy levels. So when I say ancestors are up, I'm like energetically looking up. My eyes aren't going up, right? They don't need to. But I am looking at this equivalent to what I drew here, right? I'm looking for that upper level of human spirit and beyond to this sort of ancestral cap that is a little bit arbitrary. Ghosts are the exact inverse. In order to see ghosts at all, I don't see ghosts easily because I'm so keyed up so much of the time. Okay? So I have to really, really, really try to see ghosts. That's always been the case for me. For the 10 and a bit years that I've been doing this, I've never been a good ghost person. I can still sense them when I need to. I have trained myself to be better at it. But this effort of looking down to this level is pretty difficult for me personally. So, if any of the other things that we get to are hard for you, don't worry. Some of it's hard for me. Okay? So, ancestors on that upper level start to have some crossover with the really broad spectrum of guide energy. So I'm gonna... I really do wish I had a bunch of different colors, but I simply do not. So we're gonna go here. We're gonna go way. It gives a super huge range on guides. 'Cause technically, guide energy is essentially an umbrella term that I'm using, right? Because guides can be as small as ancestors, or guides can be as huge as gods, right? So this big range that I'm gonna look at is, or that I'm gonna, oh boy, now I've got the other cap, gonna be our broad spectrum guides. I'm trying to connect that so it makes a little more sense. So GUI, maybe just GU instead of GHO. So GU, huge spectrum for guides, starting at the ancestor level, like just below the top end of the ancestor level, all the way up to what will be kind of middle low of deity energy, right? And once we get to a certain level, let me draw this on a separate page. So yes, very much kitty. Yeah. And don't worry about, like, to be honest, this is my personal opinion. Ghosts are the least necessary for us to communicate with, because we may or may not be able to help them. It may or may not be my job to help a ghost that I can see, right? It's entirely likely that that's just not this is not my fight, right? This entity doesn't want me to do anything. It doesn't matter that much if you can't see a ghost, because probably if you can see them and you can get, like, enough information out of them to figure out what they want or need, that's great, help them. If you can't, it's probably just not your job at that time. Because if it really was important, your guides would also be helping translate. They would be helping you see a little bit better. You would be covered, right? So don't worry about ghosts that much. I'm just, for illustration purposes, that's where to look. So guides go all the way huge range. Within that range, we have Faye, and the approximate position of everything will make sense in a minute. So Faye is over here. That's also a pretty big range. So Faye. Sit pretty firmly in the same energy, like approximate energy level of a guide, pretty firmly in the middle. May or may not be a guide, but they just have the same, what I'm going to call the amplitude of the energy, right? And so, yeah, I said I was going to draw something on the other page. We're going to come back to that. I'm gonna hold off my ADHD desire to jump forward in the in the lesson and actually keep us focused here. So, Faye, there, deities. Drawing not to scale, right? But deities, I'm intentionally going to draw in a bit of an inverted trapezoid here. You'll see why in a minute. DEI, deities. There are so many freaking deities, y'all. Their energies are all over the place, and here's the other weird part, right? Underworld deities are also here, but the underworld is kind of down. So the positioning of like the region that the entity is in has nothing to do with the energy of the entity, but they are cohesive enough for the entity to live there, right? So we don't need to get into what would essentially be spiritual metaphysical geology, because frankly, I don't even know. But deities from everybody from like, I'm going to plot a couple deities that I know in this really silly little trapezoid, and just sort of show you where things look like to me. So we're going to go, you are back here. Aphrodite here. Venus symbol. Apollo is that way. Apollo. A little farther back, but that's fine. Zeus, straight the fuck up. Hades, right below Zeus. Poseidon, same deal. To the left. Okay. So, plotting out just a couple of deities that I talk about sometimes. I don't talk about Poseidon a lot, but so you get the idea. So, Zeus, straight up, straight above humans, also Odin. Right there, too. Hi, Odin. Odin, Zeus, these guys who are like literal kings of gods, straight up, straight above humans, have the best perspective to look, like literally look down energetically on everything and everyone within. It doesn't mean that everything below that is a part of Zeus or of Odin. It just means that they have the energy capability to see and somewhat overmine. I was gonna say undermine, but overrule is probably the right. They have that like energy and capability to kind of overrule everything. Aphrodite's over here. Apollo's over here. I'm trying to think. Someone like, so in my view, Loki would be like right here. Right here. And that doesn't make Loki a less powerful deity. It just means that the location that Loki's energy signature resides in is in a really different part of the deity spectrum here than most of the deities that I work with. Zero shade. So I understand that this is still a kind of a weird abstract drawing, but are you guys kind of following me here with like, when I am putting plotted points in a trapezoid, I mean like literally that's the location that I energetically look for that deity. And if you really if you need to like crank up, if you need to figure out how to scroll through energy levels, do it like a radio dial. Do it like you're tuning into a radio station where you have to actually turn the radio dial, the frequency dial. Scroll up in frequency, quote unquote up in frequency, and go like click, 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 to try and see what entities and things you are seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing, whatever, in that general energetic location. So that's your cheat sheet to know where everything is. And by cheat sheet, I mean doing the work. Unfortunately. This is your cheat sheet. This is your actual cheat sheet. But the way that you figure out where everything is and how to see it, you have to scan through each individual frequency and see what you see there. Because you may not see Aphrodite in the exact same position that I see her, but when I go up and like back and to the left. You know, like I go this way to go to Aphrodite's like spiritual temple in the sky, basically. And to go see Apollo, I go the opposite direction. Like the two of them have a lot of cohesiveness, but they're not close to each other energetically. Because everything that Apollo does with like poetry, mathematics, herd animals, obviously the sun chariot thing, deeply different energetically from everything Aphrodite does with love, romance, sexuality, war also, depending on if you're talking about Aphrodite, Arya, or not. So, huge spectrum for where guides can be. Even bigger, weirder, conical 3D shape for where the gods can be. So, and I mean 3D shape. I mean like, I'll save it for here, but like, yeah, so. Things like angels, you're gonna think I'm crazy. Angels are like this way. In this really weird technical way, angels are okay. Hello, that's not a face, that's a rock. Can you? Angels are in a completely different like energy sector than all of the polytheistic deities are. Yeah, we can come back to that. This is still me trying to set foundations for how we're going to get back to the higher self thing. So, this is your 101, and the higher self part is going to be your 201. And we're going to try and do everything in roughly an hour. And we're 24 minutes in. So, if we do want to... No, we're going to do that later. Okay. But yeah, I'm trying to think of where other things, like elementals... Elementals do this weird thing where, like... Was it Earth and... Earth and water are down here, fire and air up here. Yeah. So elementals do this weird scoop. In the same like approximate direction of Fae. So we're like, this is where like different elemental energy signatures go. EL. This weird bean situation going around the Fae area. Primordials. They are so deep and ancient and like huge. They don't fit. So like chaos. This is what I was gonna say. Nyx is also in this sector. Chaos, Nyx. There's some weird stuff happening Yeah, good job. You knew it. There's some weird stuff happening here where there are primordials that are simultaneously like here and, here, right? So things like, I'm going to use Thanatos and Azrael, right? So Thanatos is like kind of here-ish. Thanatos is essentially a Grim Reaper, is a bringer of death, is a death deity. But Thanatos, in my understanding and belief of everything, is not death itself, right? Thanatos is just a death bringer, a sort of a grander psychopomp than Hermes is, but also not. Excuse me. Hermes has more jobs than Thanatos. This is his job. So Thanatos is like here. But Azrael, like Archangel of Death, is both at the very bottom of angel level and the very top of primordial level, because Azrael is death. Azrael is the Grim Reaper. Azrael is the Archangel of Death. This is what he does. This is what he does for kind of everybody. This is channeled. This is not from a book anywhere. But there is, if you listen to or read the entire myth of Sisyphus and how he tricks Thanatos and essentially traps Thanatos so that Thanatos can no longer do his job, and the way the myth goes is roughly that people just stop dying because Thanatos is trapped and can't do his job. That's a good mythical way to put it, and is kind of what would have happened in that context. But Azrael being the same type of entity that Thanatos is, but casting a much wider net, because Azrael doesn't just do things for Christians. Like, the archangels don't just do things for Christians. They do things for everybody. So sometimes you just have to ask. So, and sometimes you don't have to ask, and they just do it anyway, which is not always a good thing, but it doesn't matter. We're not talking about angels today. So Azrael would have taken over some of the work that Thanatos would have been doing, essentially. Long story short. I have a whole channeled thing about that, but that's the short version. So everything about, and like, there's a weird overlap with like primordial and like Titan energy. Like Kronos is going to be kind of in this. There's again kind of a overlapping thing where like Kronos is going to be like here. Where, like, the gods and the Titans aren't perfect mirrors of each other, right? Because like if they were, you would think that like Kronos would be like here to match Zeus, right? I don't know. I didn't make this stuff happen. This is just how I see it. So Kronos is in that weird overlap where Kronos isn't technically a primordial, but he is a Titan. Titans are kind of they're more primordial than the Greek gods are, right? So, and there are some other, one of the Aztec deities that I've spoken to, he's also in this kind of like area here. Like, just the map goes on, and it doesn't necessarily mean that like they're lower energy, but it does kind of mean that they're lower frequency. Where like chaos is this like pulsing, thrumming center of the universe thing, and Zeus is this order king of the gods, like has more power than he knows what to do with, kind of like order over chaos thing, right? So that roughly is what all of these different things, and you've also got, you've got infernal entities, and you've got everything else that you want, you can plot in here somewhere. My primary guide is a sea nymph. She she goes like here. I brought her on here. How do you guys like feel her energy? I think I called her Bella. But like she goes like, that's my main guide. So all of your guides go somewhere in the guide spectrum. Some of your guides, people do have gods as guides. I know people who have Apollo as their guide. I know people who have, like it doesn't matter. You're not better or worse than anybody else because you have a deity as a god. It just does mean that like the rules get bent sometimes. But the general spectrum of guide energy is here. If I'm ever talking about something that is guide level or guide energy, I'm talking about this whole spectrum here that's meeting right at the top of Ancestor and going all the way up to the low end of deity energy. So, and I did want to quickly go back to what I was saying. So, realistically, as you can kind of see from where we got to versus where we started, this whole thing is not, we're not doing up and down and left and right, right? We're not doing this kind of axis thing. What we're actually doing, hold on, I might actually need another pen because this one is mad at me for waving it around so much. Instead, we're doing that sort of inverted conical or like mirrored cone of energy. So humans are not the center of everything, but for the sake of the diagram, they are. Okay? So like human point, huge cone. And inverted, same diff. Same thing. Right. That's much more what the actual energy spectrum looks like. If I can get it in the camera. It is three-dimensional. It is more than three-dimensional. Right? We've got kind of like X, Y, Z, and we've got your X, Y. Oh, you can't even see that. It's fine. You've got your 3 dimensions, and then you kind of got energetic vibration inside of that as well. So this whole thing actually maps onto this shape, and that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying things are like up and to the left, or up and to the right, or back and up and back and right, right? Like all of these different things are all plot points in here somewhere, and I am the reference point. Right, I the human, me the normal me, not my higher self, not my anything else. Normal human me is the reference point because that's where my body is, that's where my spirit is, that's where my brain is. So I'm looking up, 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 up to the left, up and down and to the right, whatever I'm doing. This is, I'm sending kind of like almost a radar signal out, up, around, looking for the thing I'm looking for. Find that and then go to that specific pinpoint in this enormous energy spectrum. So, that being said, now, when I talk about higher selves, we're good, making good time, 35 minutes in. Okay. When I'm talking about a higher self, there are a bajillion different levels to look at also for your higher self. And I shouldn't say bajillion. I would say every person probably has between 2 and 4 identifiable levels of higher self. So, there's the sort of roughly ancestor guide level higher self. That's going to be right here. This is, so I was talking about this the other day as well, off stream. This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying, like, this version of me is me, but enlightened, right? This is me, but without all my baggage. This is the me that I will be after I die. This is the me that I am right now if I get in the right headspace. This is higher Matt, higher me, big me. Me, but more spiritually enlightened. than me on Earth is. That's sort of like higher self level 1. And very useful. Then, what I tend to refer to as a mid-self. It's going to end up in, that's like L1, L2. This is kind of what I mean when I'm talking about a mid-self. This is anything where, like, if you are, if you have a higher self that's kind of Fae adjacent, or if you've had a past life that was where you were a Fae, you would have been somewhere in here. And again, there's like some room for error here. We're going like here, 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 you know. Plus or minus that little thing, you know. Lots of room within that to kind of figure out where that higher self is. Then, and these are not discrete levels. These are, again, this whole thing is still spectrum. So, there's a weird, you can find it. There's a weird spot in between, there's a weird spot in between your enlightened self and this sort of Fae level of energy higher self. And like Fae to upper Fae, I would say. Like something in the realm of like the energy level of a courtly Fae or an experienced guide. So if you really want to, you can find that like crossover point between these two things. And you can find like a weird, more middle self. You don't need to. You don't need that. But you can. Just if you're curious by if my diagram is making you think, huh, what if? Yes. But it's still planar, right? It's still across this whole thing. It's that plane. So we're going to just be like L1.5, right? So you can look at different places where you haven't like reached that discrete level of higher self. You can look there. What you find may or may not be that useful to you because it's just gonna be weird. So we're gonna move on. We get into levels like 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and whatever, like however deep you want to go of your higher self. This is one of those things where like I don't even know, like some people I think do truly only have 2 levels, and that's totally fine. Again, doesn't make you any worse of a practitioner or anything. But you've got, for this next thing, this next non-discrete level, that's a little bigger than I meant it to be, pretty much covers this entire thing. Right. Anywhere within there is like level 3, level 4, level 5 higher self. Like we're getting into crazy like Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan level 5, right? Like you get to a point where whatever you see there, if you see anything, is pretty sick and it's cool. And that's fine. And like it doesn't matter. Like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's like literally I am going to label it LW for like L whatever. So, and yes, this does correspond down as well. This whole thing does correspond down. Honestly, I think if you look hard enough, you're probably going to end up finding essentially a different version of the same entity here. So if you look at like L negative 1. L negative 1. That's still going to be some version of L1. That's still going to be some version of a more enlightened you. It's going to be probably a different kind of like priority, a different kind of perspective of you. You might call that your shadow self, maybe. Like, that's still you. That's still like a more spirit essence, ethereal you. But it's not the same thing as your L1, but it's close enough. It's the same energy. It's the same energy level, but it's not the same energy frequency. I realize that I'm mixing metaphors here a little bit. Just bear with me. So, point being, all of these things do have kind of an antithesis, but especially at your like L3, L4, L5, whatever, it probably just is the same being. If your higher self is Hermes, that was a bad choice. I don't remember all the epithets. There's a million epithets of Hermes. I say a million. There's like 20-ish that I know I've seen that are like epithets of Hermes that are different versions of Hermes. So there's like Hermes the merchant, Hermes the messenger, Hermes the slay ass party boy. I don't know. If your higher self at this level is Hermes, your higher self at this level is probably still Hermes. It might just be a different Hermes, but it's still Hermes. Because as you're getting higher up, you're also getting way, way, way more generic. So, this is like, when I talk about my higher self, I mean this one. If I just say my higher self, that's the one I'm talking about. That's the one I have the most contact with. That's the one I work most directly with. And other than this here, L2 me, that's me when I'm like in dreams doing work. That's me when I'm astral projecting to somewhere where I feel like I need more protection, I need more energy. It might be a little bit more dangerous. If I'm going to the underworld, I'm probably like level 2 me. Level 2 higher self me. And then if I just need to talk to somebody on approximately the level of a guide, but that somebody is me, I'm talking to the voice in my head, but enlightened, that's my level 1, right? So, does this mean that there's something higher up still than this version of me? Yeah. Yeah, there is. And I can tell you, like, I don't mind telling you because it's so fucking generic what it is. At this level, at this ambiguous, crazy, soft, mushy level, my highest self is source. is spirit, is source, is whatever, right? And at like that same inverse level, at that low inverse level, is chaos, because source and chaos, again, in my understanding of the universe and everything, life, the universe and everything, source and chaos are the antithesis of each other. They are not the same being, but they are so inherent to everything that they are everything. Right? So like that's what I mean when I'm like, my highest self is source. And my lowest self is also me, is chaos. I know that I am a little chaos gremlin. You guys probably know it too, right? So I'm like, there's a part of me that is chaos. There's a part of me that is source. Neither of those do I like tap in to have tea with. Neither of those are all that useful to me, frankly. And I would say for probably everybody, if it's not these two, it's probably an equivalent. If it's not source and chaos, it's something like that, you know? And that is because in spite of this being essentially an infinite, theoretically infinite number of planes, at some point it does it's so infinite that it's finite, right? Like, if you can conceptualize the end of infinity because you have to, right? So, at some point, we're all going to get to Sorcerer to Chaos or to something else very similar. So, my higher self is this guy. My higher self on the lower end, same guy. Same guy. Weird, high-level, cosmic, unbelievable craziness. Same guy. Different versions of the same entity. Different versions of me. Me. Right? So. Right. Map that. Map our crazy primordial, like, yeah, deities, ancestors, guides, primordials onto a very generic, blown out 3D shaped cone. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about your higher self. So yeah, mid selves, somewhere in here. Higher self. If I'm referring to it, I'm referring to this general direction. And the way, so now that we've kind of gotten through the mushy, brain hurty, squishy stuff, I can tell you a little bit about how I like found out for sure who my higher self was. Because I had had multiple people tell me, I had already identified with the entity, I'd done that on my own, and I had multiple people tell me, this entity is your guide. And I was like, no shit. That's sick as hell. Like, but I was also like, no way. What do you mean? That an entity that entity is a guide for somebody? For me? That's crazy. So both of these tracks are going simultaneously in my head. That's the place I was working from for like 3 to 6 months. I don't remember how long. Of just, this entity is my guide. Cool. The point at which I was able to confirm, because I did kind of have a theory, or a sinking suspicion of who my higher self was. But it was one of those, like, I'm deep internally telling myself this story of that there's no way that's real. Like, I'm sort of limiting believing myself out of knowing who my higher self is. Because deep down, I know. And what I ended up doing was I did a tarot reading for somebody else who asked me to talk to their higher self. And I went, I don't think I've ever tried to do that before, but let me try. I think I can do that. And you know what? Gosh darn it, I did in fact do that. I did the exact same thing that I do with all of you guys when you guys book a tarot session with me, where I said, okay, do I have your consent to get into your energy? Take a grounding breath with me. And what I'm doing when I'm doing that is I'm keying to like your energy signature as a human. I'm not getting in it. I'm just keying onto it so that I can see this thing from your perspective instead of from my perspective, so that I can get to your ancestors, your guides, your gods. I am just locating myself in space roughly where you are so that I can get to all your stuff instead of getting to my stuff. So I do that exact same thing that I do with all of you guys. I get into that space and I go straight up, and their higher self knows to expect me, essentially. So I can find them, and it's not even that hard. Like, this is not a thing that I'm bragging about. It's just like, oh, there you are. Excellent. Let's talk. And I did the reading, and we talked, and I shared with the person afterwards of like, here's what they said, here's kind of what they looked like, there was a lot going on, but like, here's what I got out of that whole thing. And they were like, yep, that's my higher self. That aligns with roughly what I have heard of them telling me as well. Great reading, thank you. So I did all of that, and I was thinking about it like the rest of the night, because I was like, that's kind of all it took. That wasn't that hard. And the next day, I just did the same thing, but from me. And so, again, where I went from this person's middle section to this thing for them, I just was like, okay, I know now where the range of higher self frequency is. All I have to do is look at that range of frequency for myself. And I did. And I literally got their face staring back at me saying, not now. And again, I know their face. I've been just saying that they're a guide of mine for months. And I am like, and instead of reaching out to them the way that I reach out to a guide, which they were responding to, I reached out to whoever was in the frequency level where my higher self should have been. And he was there. And he was like, now is not the time, child. And I was like, got what I needed. And it kind of wasn't the time. I was on an airplane. It was a whole thing. But I got the information I needed. Fuck around and find out. So, all of that to say, that's really all it takes to find out who your higher self is. In addition to understanding your own personal limiting beliefs and how those affect you, that's gonna be important. Understanding how you view the universe and how you personally get to the different levels is gonna help a lot, right? Like, I was not 2 years in when I did this. And you don't have to be 7 or 8 years in. You don't have to be. You don't have to be 10 years in to be able to do this. It's not that hard. But you do have to reconcile some stuff, and you have to understand what this looks like in your view. Because I do see all of this stuff in, like, almost graphs. I see a lot of, like, graphical, architectural, like I don't see lines of code, but I see, like, literal strands and strings and, like, things, I see that kind of stuff. I see this kind of stuff. I've seen, like, plotted out matrices of maps the same way that they'd show radar on a movie, where, like, there was one level, like, I could see the whole plotted out map with the grid lines and everything on this level. I could see the whole plotted out map with the grid lines on this level, etc., etc., etc. And saying it's not that hard is not to make you feel bad. I'm really trying to strike the happy medium between it is difficult, like, no, it is hard, but it's not difficult. It is an easy process that takes a lot of work to get to. Fair? And that's true. Finding your higher self is hard, not difficult. Dealing with the limiting beliefs, understanding your view of the everything, understanding what this looks like for you, those are the approximate steps. If I was going to give you a 1, 2, 3, that would be the only 1, 2, 3 I could possibly give you, because I can't reach into your brain. I can talk to your guides, but I can't convince them to give you something if they don't think you're ready, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, but it's just like, but you can do it. You can get there, and you can ask your guides for help, and they will help you. Like, it's just, I love that so much. I just find them to swing on them is so funny. And at the point that you find them once, they're just there. It doesn't take a whole huge process to get there again. As soon as you found them once, especially once you know their name, because we all know names are powerful. Like, once you know the name of your higher self, it's even easier because you can call them to come down to you, and you don't have to go looking for them at all. So, end rant. But that is our ethos. That is our ethos. That's not the right one. That is our structure of how energy levels work. Again, don't forget that, like, turning the radio dial to go up in frequency and down in frequency, right? Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm just playing with the camera now. Use that to explore what the different levels look like for you. Do some of that internal work, some of that, like, shadow work type stuff. Again, right? Like how I said, this version's kind of basically your shadow. Do some of that shadow work. Look at that level. Look at that level of yourself and do the shadow work there. Do the inner child work. Do whatever kind of healing, whatever kind of, like, forward momentum building, whatever you need to do. It'll all make sense. And at some point, you will look back at it and be like, wow, why was that even a big deal? I got this so good. I got this so in the bag now. And I can't wait for that for you. So, this is a good time for questions. I don't have a hard out. I don't want to go too long over an hour, and we are at the 58-minute mark. So we'll probably call it at like an hour 5, an hour 10. But that is our lecture over. Question time open. Let me know what you got. Yeah, mid-selves can be guides too. That's right. We were talking about this a little bit. So my explanation for that is your middle self, your higher self, your everything. They all, like, your higher self in the formal sense, right? In that, like, level 3-ish sense that I was talking about, is going to be the most guide-like for you, because you could, if you really wanted to, break it down into an even simpler thing rather than like level 1, level 2, level 3. If you want to make it cut and fucking dry, there's you, there's your higher self, and there's whatever's above that. And those are the only things. Like, so if you want to do it that way, you can, and whatever's in the middle simply doesn't matter. You're not going to offend anybody because they're you. And they get it, and they know what you're looking for. So, like, yes, your middle selves can be guides, your higher self can be a guide. All of these things are going to manifest somewhere in your stuff. That's one of the reasons that I say a lot of the time, like, I am full of threads and lines and things, and I've got a lot of stuff in my, like, that makes up my soul. It's pretty crazy and mushy in there because there's just so much stuff crammed in. But it's not that I'm the coolest. It's just that whatever the things are that make me up just kind of fell together that way. And it's kind of annoying, to be totally blunt sometimes, because I'm like, how many freaking pieces are there, man? So, any of those pieces from any of those lines, like, and this is where I am going to break y'all's brains for just a second. Don't hate me. If you really, really wanted to take this whole thing and go and tilt it, hi Hermes. If you really wanted to look, instead of looking straight up, if you wanted to tilt the entire thing 30 degrees or so, 20 degrees, whatever the hell this is, you probably will find some slightly different stuff. In the same way that, like, the you here and the you here are kind of the same being, but kind of not. Like, there's a difference to them. You will find different flavors and aspects and shapes of things, mostly at this sort of mid-self level. Probably. I have. That's where I really like. I don't want to really truly break y'all's brains, but again, all of the things that make up the me. Those are all individual lines and individual threads and chords of stuff and things that all make up me. It is like trying to describe 4D. It literally is, because metaphysically this is 4D. That's... I don't... there are authors and people who, like, talk about, like, 5D spirituality, and I'm like, that's not what I mean. I'm not talking about that. I don't know shit about that. I don't really think I would like that if I read the book. But yeah, so like any one of these, like the point here on this thread, the point here on this thread, the point here on this thread, any of those could manifest as a guide for you theoretically. Any one of those could technically be a past life that you have here. I don't necessarily recommend that you go through and look through all of this stuff. Frankly, looking up and down, or looking just up is hard fucking enough. And the farther out you get in the spectrum of stuff, the spectrum of these things, the less useful it's going to be for you, the less directly useful at least. So, I would just stick straight up and down. You will randomly find some of these other things, and that's okay too. So just don't worry about it. I'm showing you because it's cool, but don't worry about it. Maybe I missed it, but do your guides typically work closely with your higher self? Like, do they work for them, kind of? Kind of, yes. Kind of, sort of, yes. Sorry, that is actually the candle for my higher self, and it just looked like it was going crazy, but it's just reflections. So we're good. We're good. So yeah, your guides don't exactly work for your higher self, because if anything, technically your guides work for you. So your higher self may have had a hand in selecting your guides, potentially. Your higher self may have had no hand in selecting your guides. Your higher self has probably spoken to your guides, and that's pretty normal. It's kind of one of those things where, in a way, especially depending on what level of higher self we're talking about, like, again, if we're going to that, like, high, insanely high level of, like, source level stuff, source did not pick my guides, but my guides are my guides because of source, right? So you get into that weird kind of level. So, like, me, right before I came down to Earth, I can technically, theoretically pick some guides. My higher self, the one that I'm always talking about, my, like, level 3 higher self, can pick some guides. My level 2 higher self can be a guide, or can pick a guide, or whatever. Like, excuse me. There is some level of almost pseudo-corporate hierarchy happening here. But the weird thing is, this me here is the one that's the most in charge, like, right before we come to Earth. Right before me on Earth happens, I get the final say. Now, in that state, you could argue that I'm probably in one of my higher self states already. It's a really big, messy, conceptual thing. This is like trying to describe 4D, like, and we are also talking about time. Time is relevant to all of this in the same way that time is also irrelevant to everything, and I won't get into my time rant again today. But if you know, you know. If you were here for the time spheres rant, you know. So, yeah. You are the most important chocolate chip in the cookie because you're the one that's on Earth, and you're the one that's physically here, physically doing things. And that's what makes you special and cool and unique and part of this whole system of stuff. The fact that you're the physical one and you're the one that's here is important. You are the most important part of your entire matrix right now because you're the only you that can actually fucking do anything here. So enjoy it. Maybe be a little semi-responsible with it, but don't get too serious about it. Oh, the time rant was ages ago. This was like last year. Yeah, this was not recent. That was a whole thing. But yeah. You are the perfect morsel of the soft bite of the cookie with the perfect amount of chocolate chips right in the middle. Or the chewy part on the outside, if that's your favorite part. I don't know. Whatever is the best part of the cookie, that's the part that you are, and everything else is also part of it. But you're the one that's here. So, let's see. Is there anything else I missed? Then where are the parallel reality selves at? Yeah, that's why my brain broke. That's why I'm saying don't worry about it. I would say it's less about parallel reality. So this is more of a timelines thing than it is a parallel realities thing. So yeah, it's your yes, yes, but realistically, this is just icing. This is like, don't worry about it. Don't let this part be the part that breaks your brain. If you forget everything else tonight, remember this. And like, we can come back to this part for fun. But if you forget everything else from tonight, just remember this part and figure out what that is for you. Look around, fuck around and find out, in your spiritually safe way. I think that's gonna kind of do us, and I'll do a bibliomancy too before we go, but yes, you are the perfect bite of the entire dessert. Is what I mean in a t-shirt. Love that, honestly. Good. Okay. Whew. How we feeling, folks? That was a lot. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. My physics professor said so many times. Sorry for deeply spiking the audio there with the clap. That's just hilarious. Because I get it. I remember physics class. We don't need to talk about that. Anyway, so... yeah, truly. How are you guys doing? Is everybody doing okay? I do want to do this, but... Thank you. Try doing my best. We are spirits in training, after all. It's almost like it's the name for a reason. Now you got hella questions. Okay, drop one in the chat and then maybe write something down and save it for next week. But yeah, I'll do one more question if you wanna throw it in. Total full mouth kind of bite. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'm also gonna take another grounding breath here, just for me, just for fun. It's okay, because now I don't know what I don't know. Fair enough. That's cool. Okay. We'll just do our bibliomancy and we'll call it a night then, folks. Shall we? Jim Carrey Grinch, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. Okay. Y'all know the deal. Give your general energetic affirmation that you would like to be read for in this book on this evening tonight here at the Spirits in Training Live broadcast. All right. Just turn on announcer voice. Hello, folks, and welcome to the Bibliomancy section of the Spirits in Training broadcast. Okay. And I will find us a passage for tonight. This is passage 51, and I don't remember it, so we're just going for it. Tao bears them, day nurses them, events form them, energy completes them. Therefore, the 10,000 beings honor Tao and respect Day. Tao is honored, Day is respected, because they do not give orders but endure in their own nature. Therefore, Tao bears them and Day nurses them, rears them, raises them, shelters them, nurtures them, supports them, protects them. Bears them without owning them, helps them without coddling them, rears them without ruling them. This is called Original Day. If that don't sound like a higher self passage out of the Tao Te Ching, woo-wee! I'm gonna read it again. Me just going full Southern, semi-Appalachian, I guess. I don't know. Tao bears them, Day nurses them, events form them, energy completes them. Just thinking about that, like that little seed of an energy that you were before you came on Earth, right? Yeah, yes. Okay. Therefore, the 10,000 beings honor Tao and respect Te. Tao is honored, Te is respected, because they do not give orders, but endure in their own nature. Therefore, Tao bears them, and Te nurses them, rears them, raises them, shelters them, nurtures them, supports them, protects them, bears them without owning them, helps them without coddling them. That's a big one for the higher selves. Rears them without ruling them. This is called Original Day. Yeah. Again, that's passage 51 if you felt like reading it again on your own. I knew, I was like, we're going to get a good one tonight because it's going to go with all that stuff we just went through. So exactly, it's accurate and correlates to the lesson. Thank you guys so much for being here. Truly, this was a really fun one. I knew I wanted to talk about this, but I didn't know how much I was going to have to say about it. I was a little worried this was going to take 20 minutes. And we managed to fill the entire live with it, and I think we had a good lesson, good discussion. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you do come up with more questions, I'm going to do my best to get back on the consistent live schedule for every week. So, next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, I will see you. Y'all know, I would always love to see you guys in readings, but no pressure. And yeah, for now, everybody have a good night. We're getting close to the weekend. I need the weekend this week. It's been a weird one, so let's get there together. Let's have a good time this weekend, just doing whatever we do, shall we? Thank you guys so much. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.